Hey golfers, Tony with Reactionary Golf. We're on myth number 2. Shallowing out the shaft. Is that really the best description on how to deliver the club into the ball? I did a quick Google search and I swear everyone talks about how to do this. So obviously I'm missing something, or golf instructors are just trying to be more of a marketing cliche. If this is what's hot and trending, this is what I need to teach. And unfortunately, the research, when we start taking a look at what is shallow and steep, inclination has nothing to do with steep angle of attack into the ball or shallow angle of attack in the ball. And you're going to see in some video demonstration that I got shallower than my normal swing, but actually got steeper. So my goal for you for 2018 is to clear the closet full of marketing hype of golf instruction and really find out what works best for you and look at how you can do it effectively. If golf swing takes a lot of thought, from a motor control perspective, you're not going to make it work. We really do not want a lot of thinking why we're making the golf swing. We want to be aware of the direction we're making the golf swing and what type of ball flight we want to create. Now, there is a time and place, as depending on your skill, where yes, you have to be a little bit more focused in on, I want to make a swing change, so I got to be a little bit more mechanical. That's fine, but there's a shift from being very cognitive to start developing some awareness to just knowing and going towards automaticity. So, and one of the things I remember when I was working with Paul Azinger, he always talked about his goal was to get away from the 6 and 7 swing thoughts that he could have down to 1 or 2, and that's when he was going to play his best golf. And also, when I was hanging out with John Daly back in the day, before before everybody knew him as John Daly, what he was able to do with the golf ball was phenomenal. And it was more of, when I asked him, I said, well, how do you do it? This idea of grip it and rip it, that's it. There's not a whole lot of thinking. And that's what makes great players great, is they don't think like that. They don't think like they wrote about in their books. Because if they did process that information, it would slow the whole system down, and no one wants to do that. So really my goal for you golfers this year is to simplify your motion, come up with a few key points that you can produce a reliable ball flight or a predictable ball flight. Golf is never about consistency. There's always going to be some variation, but can we put the ball in play where we want to? Find your best swing, how you do it, whether it's reactionary golf or somebody else. I want you to play your best golf, but realize that knowing more about the golf swing is not going to make you a better golfer. We want to take all the science, and that was my goal, was to see what the researchers really dig into the research, really dig in, have a good understanding of neuromechanics, how the brain and the body work to create motion. Beyond the kinematics, really look at some of the forces that the body can produce from a muscular standpoint, not from what a force plate says, because really the force plate's only going to give us what the body's doing to it. So we really have to be careful of not getting caught up into a lot of minutia of detail. You're not going to play your best golf. So simplify it, find your best swing. I hope you understand that there's a difference between shallow and flat in this upcoming video. And I wish the best golf for you guys this year in 2018. And please shoot me an email if you have any questions, and hopefully we'll see you on Inside the Golf Lab. Let's talk about this idea of shallowing out the shaft and what does that mean. And actually, to me, it doesn't make sense at all, because when we take a look at a position up at the top, and then I'm supposed to shallow it out so this club becomes flatter or more, it's not. This would obviously be steep from what they say, versus something like this would be shallow. To me, that's just inclination. It really isn't angle of attack. That to me is what shallow would be. If I want this club coming into the ball and I'm coming in steep like that, yeah, that's a very steep angle of attack. We would want this angle of attack, and we'll see in our foresight launch monitor that we only want about 3 or 4 degrees. So when we take a look at that, angle of attack into the ball, we're looking at something like this. I mean, that's how steep really we want to have that club come into the ball, because we want more of that force going into the ball, not into the ground. So this idea of this being shallow, to me, is just a matter of it being flat or parallel to the ground. So one of the things I wanted to try to do to kind of show this is what kind of lie angles would we get if we tried to shallow out the club. So one way for me to do this is I'm actually going to try to make myself shorter, because this is the only way I could make the club shallower. And if you ever get a chance to watch some old videos of Sevi Ballesteros, oh my gosh, he can take a 5-iron, really flatten things out, open the thing up, and hit phenomenal bunker shots. And I remember working with Paul Asinger doing the same sort of thing, really kind of getting as low as possible to really kind of get this club coming in more this way. And so really the idea wasn't so much to be shallow as it was to be shallow as in a plane inclination. It was just to be shallow into the sand. We don't want to take all that energy into it. So the question is, if I go shallow, what will my angle of attack be, and will it change?
So golfers, what I want to show you is just a little bit deeper and again detail on kind of assessing this idea of shallow versus flatter inclination and angle of attack. So when we kind of take a look, I'm matched these up the best I could. So this is roughly the same point relative to my body on the way down. So I time these up back from impact. And what we can see here is obviously the inclination of the shaft at this point. Again, we're using 2D versus a 3D motion, so we don't want to get into the minutia of that. But we can see that relatively this is a flatter on the left. It is a flatter position. And then through impact, we can see, obviously, it does, in my case, I do flatten it out maybe 1 degree, and I may have missed the line. So it's about the same. So we could say this is almost, and this is the functional swing plane. From here through here is really that functional swing plane that Quan talks about. So the idea is, did we get a good angle of attack with the shallower swing or the flatter swing?
Okay, after looking at this golf swing with our foresight launch monitor, we saw that really, even though I shallowed out my plane, my path, I still had almost an 8-degree angle of attack, which is very steep into the ball. We really don't want that with the 7-iron. So what's a better way to shallow out your swing instead of worrying about inclination? Another key component on how we can keep the club shallow through impact is how we use our body. A lot of times we'll get too much out in front here. The hands are now in front, and then that creates a steeper angle of attack. So the better those arms can transition the club, and now we get the club swinging more this way. Now I drive through with my hips to keep that club moving level through impact instead of swinging down. So it's not so much a matter of trying to hit the ball as much as I'd like to see is try to swing through the ball. And that gives us the feeling for me is impact is beyond the ball. So at the top, find your optimum trajectory or your optimum height. It's not going to be here. We're not going to throw the ball very far. Talking with one of our subscribers, Carl, who's friends with Jim Palmer, Hall of Fame baseball pitcher, wouldn't throw a ball very far this way. We need that load right there in that right pec. So find your height. This isn't going to be good. We know that's not going to be good. Find yours. Now realize that your arm swing is what creates a proper angle of attack into the ball. Not, if I go this way, now this shifts my functional swing plane that Dr. Kwan talks about now to over here. It's very difficult. It takes a lot of energy to transfer or change this path. And if I actually do bring it down, that club face is wide open. There's no way. I have to do a lot of manipulation. So realize that shallow in this aspect is really flat, and may or may not fit the design of the golf club and the design of your body. Work with what you have and realize that it's how the club is delivered to the ball, not what trajectory we're swinging this on, because everyone's a little bit different. So, to go more information on how to properly deliver the club into the ball, come and join us on Inside the Golf Lab at reactionarygolf.com. And we'll hopefully get some warm weather and we'll get outside or out in the garage and start getting some swings in. Let me know how it goes, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.